Okay, so before we get started on designing anything, we have to figure out what is a USB hub. So if you have seen these devices before, these are called USB hubs. Basically, this device connects to your computer and then it provides 4 more USB ports. So if you have like a keyboard, a mouse, and a USB stick, but your computer only has 2 USB ports, you can use something like this so that you can fit all of the devices and connect them to your computer. So there are a few different USB versions over the years. So the first USB version was released around 1998. The speed was 12 megabits per second. It was sufficient for any devices back then because we didn't have high speed storage and stuff like that. It translates to 1.5 megabytes per second. And then next comes USB 2.0, which was released in the 2000s. The speed was bumped up from 12 megabits per second to 480 megabits per second. This changes increase the speed a lot without increasing the cost or the difficulty of routing a lot. With USB 1.1, this is fitting if you're using this spec for something like a microcontroller, which doesn't need high speed. So although for something else other than like microcontrollers, you need USB 2.0 because then the speed would be too low. For example, if you have like a hard drive, an external hard drive, and it runs at USB 1.1, your files would take forever to copy. While as compared to USB 2.0, this is roughly 40 times faster. And the higher end of USB is USB 3.2. This was released in 2008 and it features 5,000 megabits per second, which is more than 10 times faster than USB 2.0. Why we are gonna be using USB 2.0 instead of USB 3.2 in this design is because USB 3.2 is very precise. Like to hit the speed, you have to turn the signal on and off very precisely and quickly. Otherwise, your data would be jumbled, and to design a circuit board around that constraint, it would be difficult, and also the cost for parts and PCBs would be high. For USB 2.0, the constraints are more forgiving, so that would be easier to DIY a USB hub. USB 1.1 is too slow, so USB 2.0 is a good middle ground between speed and cost. If you look inside of your USB hubs, you will see a USB hub IC. This is like the smart chip that does all the communication and negotiating with your computer and the devices downstream. So some terminologies, if you're connecting the USB hub to your computer would be called an upstream device. And anything that connects to the USB hub, other than that, is called a downstream device. So think of it like going from your computer upstream and going downstream into your other devices. So as you can see in those pictures, we have USB hubs over here, and these are the chips that they use. In our USB hub, we would be using a chip too. From my experience with using USB hubs ICs and making a few hubs out of these ICs, I like WCH334 a lot. This chip is made by WCH. It costs 57 cents and the complexity is very low. It has an integrated crystal and it only needs one external capacitor. Compared to something like the FE1.1S, it costs more and you also need more components. The core chip SL2.1A is also another low-cost alternative, but I like the WCH chip more because it's simpler. This one needs 3 capacitors. Another upside to using the CH334 is that it supports multi-transaction transport. Actually, I need to clarify on that, but basically, when you're using your mouse and your camera and your keyboard at the same time with MTT, you will be able to use them all at once without bottlenecking. With single transaction transport, you would have to wait for the mouse to finish, and then now you can move on to the keyboard and the camera. So if something is using a lot of bandwidth in your USB hub, your mouse and keyboard would be sluggish. So that's why the CH334 is a bit more expensive than the SL2.1A, despite having almost the same feature set.